Hello everyone, this is Brian, and I'm bringing you episode 15 of my reusable space program career in .90 Kerbal space program. Tonight marks a major milestone in the career. We're going to launch the first space station components. Right now you're seeing a little ritual I do before each launch, especially something as ungainly as this. I'm seeing how the fuel is going to drain. This is how I plan to drain the fuel in flight, and I want to make sure that that center of lift ball never goes higher than the center of mass ball, which would make it very unstable and want to crash. So it all looks good. Put the fuel back in the tanks. Now before we launch this thing, I want to show you a couple of successful landings of these reusable boosters. For my last two satellites, I've been flinging all kinds of stuff into space to fulfill contracts, so I'm getting lots and lots of practice re-landing these booster stages. And the big difference here is that I'm now getting these things more into an orbit that's spending a little more time getting into an orbit that takes it right over the KSP, zero inclination. And these have a couple different altitudes, and so the first one here is at 84 kilometers, and the other one's at I think 71. And the big difference is that I'm doing no burns until basically a deorbit burn. So this burn happens in space, up in orbit. You can see it there, it's 84 kilometers up. And I'm trying to see if this helps with a more accurate landing. Before, remember, the landing spot was moving quite a bit as I travel through the atmosphere. So I'm seeing if a steeper descent helps with that. It should. And this booster launched only a very minimal satellite, so it has a whole lot of fuel on board. So I'm going to save about 500 left in the tanks for a correction burn as I get closer. So you can see there, I'm just the edge of the X is touching the landing zone. That marker is at the center of the runway. I'm going to let you see this more or less as I saw it when I played. I'm not going to speed this up. There is some time acceleration that I did while playing it, though. Okay, I expect to get some serious reentry heating here, coming down from this altitude. No, it's already decreasing, not bad at all. Oh, what the heck was that? That was, I think, the refueling nozzle, which was down towards the bottom. That's okay, that part's not needed. Okay, here's a good braking burn. I'm going to kill all my horizontal velocity now and just basically come straight down. Now you can see why these rockets are set up for maximum delta V even when they launch small payloads, because you need control. With control you get it back. It's much better than doing a minimal rocket and then losing half of them because you can't land them properly. Okay, let's jump forward a little bit. Oh, I guess we're not going to jump forward. Kind of wondering what that was. I didn't hit any keys there. Okay, good. Main chute deployment. Get the gear down. I'm always looking out for that black obelisk here. Whenever I land in this area, I wonder if I'm going to land on top of it, and I don't really see it there. Go. When shadow meets landing gear, you've hit the ground. Getting real close here. Just gonna do a little bit of a burn here to make sure I touch down at nice, slow speed. There we go. And I've had a few of these just spontaneously disassemble, and I mean the entire rocket after sitting there for, 5 or 6 seconds. So I hit the recover button fairly quickly now. Okay, here comes the second one. Same type of burn as the first. This one, though, I'm starting at a lower altitude, 71 kilometers. This gives me a chance to talk about the space station I'm going to be launching. Very interesting. I was checking out online about inflatable habitation pods in space, and much to my surprise, I found that there already is one up there. NASA built one and then didn't launch it. Instead, they sold it to a private company, and that company promptly stuck it on top of the next Soviet ICBM, threw it up into space, and it's been up there for quite a long time. I think it launched in like 2005 or 2006. It's been a while since I've read about this. I don't have the facts and figures at hand. And it inflated, and it's still up there, and it's fine. It's kind of a test vehicle. There's nobody on it. They're just monitoring it to see how it fares, and it's supposed to be up there for another 10 years or something. So that's definitely not fantasy hardware. Whoop! There it goes again. See, I hardly got any reentry effects on this one coming down from 71 kilometers, and it looks like I'm going to land in pretty much the same spot. So this is great. This is what I want. This is predictability. Two landings in a row, coming down the same place on flat ground, real close to the KSC, different rocket weights, different altitudes. So I think I'm onto something here, and from now on I'm going to do these landings like this. I'm going to do the deorbit burn from orbit and come straight down. I'm not going to try and position it in the atmosphere above the KSC for a braking burn there. With that method, I was lucky to get within 5 or 6 kilometers of this place. I think only one in all of those that I launched landed where these are. I probably could have done some more editing in here. Part of the delay on the last one was I just was not looking forward to all the editing. And now I actually have, this is episode 15, I have episode 21 sitting on my hard drive. So it's time to get these out. Okay. Bingo. Only a couple hundred yards from where I wanted to be. Okay, now for the big launch. This is really a workout for this launch vehicle. To do this, I've set up TAC fuel balancer to drain the fuel tanks in reverse order. If I went from the top down, I would very quickly end up with the center of mass way below the center of lift, and the moment I tried to turn, I'm sure this would just spin out of control. And you don't need the mod to do that. You can do that by clicking around the rocket. This is just much easier. So I'm flying at the very top trim tank there, the small white one locked. The top orange one is set to I for in. The bottom one was set to O for out, and then once it emptied I locked it so that nothing would ever go back in there. Locking off the empty tanks. almost there, just trying to gain as much horizontal speed as I possibly can to make it into orbit while I watch my apoapsis there at the top of the rocket launch window on the lower right. Once it hits 75, I turn off the throttle and coast on up. Now once I'm out of the atmosphere, the center of lift doesn't exist, so you're free right now to move everything around. I still tend to keep the weight forward though as much as possible. Get a circularization burn plotted here. Now you notice I haven't tossed the fairings off yet. The payload is shredded into those fairings, and I don't really trust this to fly straight without that. Okay, time to throttle up. Now I don't want these fairings floating around orbit, so I'm on my orbit info window there. I've got my periapsis and I'm watching it move up from a large negative number on up to where I want it to be, which is around 118 kilometers. So as long as I jettison this before that periaps comes up above 70, these should eventually fall into the atmosphere and burn up. That's exactly what I want. So I'm going to pause here. Yep, throw off the fairings. So those will re-enter. It'll just take some time, take several days for them to fall down. Okay, and I got my space station around Kerbin mission complete. So now you can see the size of that payload. It is massive. Now I want the station to be pretty much right at the equator because I'm going to be coming up to it an awful lot. So I go ahead and take my time, wait until I come across an ascending or descending node. This looks like an ascending node. And I very carefully burn south so that my inclination is 0, or as close to it as I can get. I got it down to 0.06, and then I must have crossed the equator because I thrusted some more and it throttled back up again, or it jetted back up a little bit. Now I'm lowering it by using RCS to push this thing the other way, push it backwards, trying to get it down. Got it down to 0.1, 0.0 something. .03, 0.02, think that's as good as I'm going to get right now. So here's a tip for large payloads. Before you release them, turn around and face prograde. That way, you turn around and face prograde, you detach your booster. The booster's next job is to burn retrograde to deorbit, right? So that way, your payload goes off in the prograde direction, your booster, when it starts to thrust, will go off in the retrograde direction, and the two shall never meet. Alright, get to unfold everything. So I got two Gigantor solar panels up here, attached to some structural pieces. Right below those square objects are large battery banks from the KW rocketry pack, inflating the hab pod. So there's a tunnel in between the solar panels and this, and some extra docking nodes. The inflatable, right below the inflatable pod habitation module, I think it's called, is the Kerbitat, and below that is another piece that I can extend the station off of. So I'll just call this Kerbin Station because I am super creative with names. There, see this? That's what you want. Ask me how I know. Okay, so I did the same docking landing node as before, maneuver, just like the previous boosters. And on this one, I forgot that I'd used up almost all of my fuel getting that big heavy payload into orbit, so I couldn't do my second braking burn, which would happen right about now. And it's very clear even now this is going to overshoot. Now this one's coming down from 118 kilometers, so massive reentry. And yeah, I way overshot, touching down here. I was like 40 kilometers away from the Space Center. It is not even over the horizon. So there we go. Got that recovered. By the way, I did have to upgrade my launch pad for that. I forgot to mention that. So now I'm at a level 3 launch pad. And there we go. Many more station launches in the next few episodes. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you later.